Roebuck, when I was growing up, was the big deal. Somebody that is of my generation, Sears Roebuck was a big deal. So it's very sad to see.
You heard the president. Sears, the store whose business model in many ways reshaped the country, especially rural America, giving them access to things they didn't have access to before that, said today they will file for bankruptcy. They're closing 142 stores by the end of the year. That news, not much of a surprise in a world that revolves around e-commerce, but that wasn't always the case. Ask anybody over the age of 30, and they probably have a story about a trip to their local Sears or getting that big fat catalog in the mail and picking out Christmas toys or even a new refrigerator. It was founded in 1892, and it became famous for connecting rural shoppers to the goods that they had in the big city, basically. Brands like Kenmore and Craftsman Tools. Back in the day, it was a staple on network TV.
Put an end to traffic fears. It's very easy to get to Sears.
With Sears 19-inch color TV, you get a lot more than one button color.
There's more for your love.
Steyerwalt takes a trip with us down memory lane. Hi, Chris.
Howdy, ma'am.
So what did Sears mean to you, sir, growing up in West Virginia?
I remember when I was a young reporter, Robert C. Byrd, his eminence, when he was on the campaign trail, he said, there's three things West Virginians can count on. Carter's Little Liver Pills, the Sears and Roebuck Company, and Robert C. Byrd. And we scoffed. We thought it was pretty corny, young reporters. But you know what? For a lot of the older folks listening to him, he was not far off. Because if you lived in a remote part of the United States, if you lived in a holler in Raleigh County, West Virginia, that catalog was your connection to the American promise in a lot of ways. And then Sears did it again. They revolutionized it two times. Once they kept rural America connected to the fast-growing urban America and what was going on there. But then, after World War II, their competitors thought that we were going to be in a deep recession, that the Depression was really still there, lurking behind everything. But you know what they did? They invested huge sums, took a giant bet on what would eventually become the malls that we know. They remade American retail again because they went out into the sticks, they went out into the suburbs, they planted the flag and built these big stores and changed everything a second time. And I tell you what, as part of my life, especially growing up where I grew up, the Sears catalog was a big deal.
Yeah, you know, and when you think about it, and I didn't know until I read today that hundreds of thousands of houses were built from Sears kit boxes, essentially. Oh, yeah. And some of those neighborhoods still exist. But when you think about it, they were the Amazon of their day, or the Walmart before Amazon of their day, because they brought all of this access to places where they just had such limited access in the little shops that they might have on their main street.
They didn't have any little shops on the main street. In my grandfather's hometown, they had one general store, and there was not a lot of choice. Now, he, of course, claimed that before the Charmin bears got into the woods, that they even used the used catalogs in the outhouse. So I don't know that Amazon will ever be able to live up to that promise. I don't know if they'll ever do that.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to get that image out of our heads, but you know.
Times are tough. But Amazon is doing now what Sears did before. That's the way the world goes. It's
like, you know, the horse and buggy, and it is it's sad, and it is definitely the end of an era. But they were $5.5 billion in debt. You know, as a business reporter, I watched Sears try to reinvent itself over the past, 20 years so many times, and it was just impossible, sadly.
When you get to that kind of debt, you're talking about federal government debt. Only the government is allowed to rack up debt that big.
And unfortunately, they were not deemed too big to fail, apparently, because the government did not sweep in and get them. It does, I mean, we do live in such a different world now. I mean, Amazon, it's almost like, people who use the Sears catalog to buy things that they, couldn't get. Now everybody buys everything on Amazon. It's just, I wonder if Amazon will go bankrupt, when our kids are growing up.
One day somebody will invent something better than Amazon, and then they'll go bankrupt, and then my grandkids can come on to television or whatever place of television and talk about my dad used to go on Amazon and he tipped the buy now thing. It was adorable.
All right. Thanks for the catalog multi-use. Chris Steyerwalt, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
You bet.
So that is our story on this.